And I'm different. I skipped that part of the first draft.
I am not very good at writing first drafts, but we realized this week that the way that our process works, we actually have a solution to deal with the things that I'm not very good at in writing first drafts.
So my project for this week had been finishing up really a third draft of a scene that I've been working on, trying to make sure that I wasn't overly verbose in some areas, trying to make sure things lined up well and fit some of the details that we had in other scenes, and just make sure that it really works well and that it's a good scene.
Yeah, fitting within the neighboring scenes.
Yes.
And my work this week was to take a little placeholder I had written. I should probably describe something here, and writing the first draft of the part that went there. And what I found was that as I was trying to write that first draft, there were so many little threads of, oh, and it needs to do this, and it needs to do this, and it needs to accomplish that. And I didn't trust myself to take all these little threads of it needs to, and I didn't trust myself to come back to it later and remember those. So I needed to get all of that polish into the first draft.
And I'm different. I skipped that part of the first draft and I just write. Like, let me get out what happened. Let me make sure I know the general structure of the scene, and this person talks and this person talks, and I can go back later and figure out the specifics of what they say. I'm just going to get the details down. And typically, I go back later, shorten it a good bit because I have my characters talk too much in the first part.
I think there might be a part of me that is reacting to something that I remember hearing so many times when I was growing up. If you don't have time to do it right, when are you going to find time to do it over? And I think that just gets stuck in the back of my head sometimes. But then as we were looking ahead, we're planning out, so what are we going to do between now and the next time that we meet? We were looking at chapter 3 and how we had things planned there, and we recognized that things weren't quite lining up the way that we hoped that they would. You had found that there was a scene that we had described, and just the bullet points and the purpose statement for that scene, well, we can't do that. We already addressed that. We wrote part of that scene already, and does this scene even fit?
We had two scenes that were, one of them that was fully written, one of them that was partially written, and realized that they basically overlapped like 80%. Like, well, that's unnecessary.
Yeah. Right. But what we discovered during that part is that part of our process is to start with this giant scene document that includes just a high-level summary of what the scene is about, and then what the purpose of why this scene exists. What do we want it to accomplish? And it was in reviewing that we recognized the overlap that he was talking about. And so that kind of even before we write the first draft, that 0th draft, if you will, just the outline, the approach, helped us to accomplish a lot of what we often try to accomplish just by having the first draft, seeing the problems of pacing, the problems of structure and sequencing. So
I think kind of going back a little bit to that quote that you mentioned, I think we both have a different quote that summarizes our view of the first draft. Yours is that if you don't have time to do it right, when are you going to have time to do it over? And mine is more, anything worth doing well is worth doing poorly until you can do it well. And so we have these kind of different philosophies that I think kind of balance each other out and work well in, even though it's a little, you have some thoughts, I can tell.
Oh, I'm just recognizing that the quote that you shared is one you probably heard from me, because it's something that I learned while you were growing up. And the quote that I shared is something that I learned from my parents. And this whole parent-child relationship theme that's part of our storyline is just
coming up again.
It was just funny to see it showing up again.
Yep.
Anyway, So that's really where we're looking at what we have coming up this next week. I'm going to be writing a first draft for a scene, and he's going to be looking at the 0th draft of some of the other scenes. So different things that we're doing. So our question for you this week is, what defines a first draft for you? Let us know that in the comments, and we will see you again in 2 weeks.